Hello and welcome to the highest rated show in Ryan's living room. This is What's My House Worth? I am Rob Tickton. This is the aforementioned Ryan McDonald. We're with Hawthorne Real Estate. We build houses. We also provide brokerage services right here in Needham. Today's show, we're going to be examining the sales data for the month of December. We also have our special yearly slide that shows the sales in Needham by what, Ryan?
School district.
By school district. Everybody always interested in that, so get your pens and paper ready in case you want to take some notes.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. But before we do that, before we jump in, we're first going to take a look at the gross sales data in Needham for the month of December. And Ryan, as we examine that data, what's the first thing that jumps out at you?
Well, we had some closings this month. We had 28 of them, whereas November, we had dipped down to 12. So it was a lot busier, a lot of closings. They're tucking in before the end of the year. Our average list price also up over $1 million at just under 1.1, with that's up from 830s from last month.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the average sale price pretty healthy as well, 1,052. That's up from 841 from the month of November. We did see a little bit of a dip in the percentage, the sale percentage, down under 100%, which I think is normal.
Right, I would.
So we're down to 98%, which is still incredibly healthy, which means that your home, if priced right, will sell at 98% of that asking price. And then the average price per square foot of December sales at $347. Still, I mean, every month we see those numbers in the mid threes, and we're blown away by them. It's just a remarkable number.
Right, 18 months ago we never saw that number. Now we seem to see it consistently.
Yep.
Days on market seems to be about in line with where it's been at 73, and then just 2 homes less than December of last year, which was actually a pretty good month, I remember saying at the time, for 2012. Taking a look now at the trailing 6 months, and we get an idea in the trend and how things have been looking in the area over the past 6 months. And there's that 12, and certainly that looks pretty low there, doesn't it? It's nice to bounce back to a more respectable number, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think we like to see, the 20s and 30s, and it speaks to the consistency of the market. 12 was definitely a shocking number at being so low last month, but 28, like you said, 30 last year, so that's about where we expect December to be rather. And as we look at the next slide, you can see how consistent, in fact, it's actually been.
That's right, and you said 12 shocking or low for November. Don't be surprised to see it dip back down in the coming months. But like you said, it's a strong December when you stack it up against the previous few years back to 2008. And we seem to settle in at 30 there in 11 and 12, but 28 seems right in line. Next up is the slide that we've all been waiting for. A lot of anticipation about this one. A lot of chatter. It's going to be trending. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we debuted it last year. You all remember on the year-end spectacular, and this is, we brought it back this year, and it breaks the sales down for the entire year by school district, and we remember that's. I mean, that's how a lot of discussions start about real estate in Needham. It's about what neighborhood you're in, what school district you're in, and it's interesting to look at how they break down and looking at the sales prices, for example. The average sale price in the Newman district is over $1 million, and that's a really big number.
Came out of nowhere too.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
last year it was $807, so a $200,000 jump in your average sales price in the Newman district, and really the same sample size. There's 111 sales in Newman last year compared to 113 this year, so it's. I mean, that's a big number.
Right, and so not to jump ahead, but so going back to homes, just first and foremost, right in line with last year, you would expect Newman being the biggest school, covering the biggest area. That would be the highest consistently. That's not going to change much. I would imagine the ratio with Newman with regards to the other schools and how many homes that sell in that area. It's the other data and the fact that it's over $1 million for the area that has the most home sales. So it's not just this is a trend.
No,
this
definitely.
Isn't just all of a sudden a blink on the radar.
And the point you touched on is looking at the total numbers. The ratios of Newman being 113 out of the total of 329. That percentage is consistent year over year. Broadmeadow's consistent. Elliott, Hillside, Mitchell, they're all consistent as terms of the actual number of homes sold. We saw some fluctuations. Broadmeadow actually went down in sales price. It was $891 last year, and now it's at $868. But the days on market is really strong. I mean, the homes are selling quickly in Broadmeadow, more quickly than in any other district.
And then going on to the middle row there, or is that the column? The middle column,
That'd be a column.
Is correct. The dollars per square foot, which is Mitchell is kind of leading the pack, so to speak, at $340, but You noticed last year there was just one, and it was just Mitchell, that was over $300 a square foot.
Right now they all are.
Now they all are.
Crazy.
And so we've talked about that, probably ad nauseum over the course of the past year about how the dollars per square foot is so much higher than it was a year ago. And you can see it, across kind of any cross section, including the schools.
Yeah, so this we're gonna put together a little blog post that's gonna get into a little bit more detail about this because I think it's interesting and I think it, it's relevant for a lot of people. So you can look for that on our website in the weeks ahead. But we do have a lot to cover in the show, so we're gonna move on. But we can revisit this later on.
Soon. But real quick, what's the website so people know?
It's www.hawthornre.com.
Okay, so there you have it. We're now going to take a look at the individual homes that sold in the month of December, starting with the low one, as always, and then kind of working our way up. With that in mind, let's begin our journey on
Central Avenue.
665 Central Avenue, sold for just $388. Not many houses we see that sell for under $400,000, but this is one, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually have a chance to view this one, Rob. I know you did. One of my favorite things about it, though, is it's between Glover and Luart, and Luart might be my favorite street name in Needham.
You like that?
I do.
Just because of the sound of it? Or, okay.
No, it's good. It works for me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the house. Felt a little bit smaller, to be honest with you, I thought, than the 1,100 square feet that it said on public record. It actually felt a lot smaller. The house was in rough shape, really big lot. Somebody might see this and say, whoa, how is somebody getting an acre and a half for $388? But the reason is because most of that acreage was wet. So it was actually, it felt like a much smaller lot than that. Although, you felt like you had some space in the backyard.
Sure, you can spread your legs a little bit. You just can't develop it.
Correct. Well said. Staying on Central Avenue, we moved to 96 Central Ave, and the one thing that popped on the chart for this one, Ryan, for me, was the fact that it was very close to
Newton.
Or 128.
Yeah.
Both correct.
Right.
Both correct.
Right, and they kind of advertised it was near the Newton line. And I didn't know that was really necessarily a selling point.
Well, it worked for you.
Yeah, it did?
Well, because now you associate it as being close to Newton.
Well, sure, yeah, but and also, interestingly, it was once a two-family. That's also...
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Not sure, I think that's really a selling point either.
Maybe just to explain when people go and walk through the house, maybe
possibly,
to explain
because it doesn't necessarily mean that you can, I can convert this to 2 units, and that's not what they're saying. It's they're maybe, as you pointed out, they're trying to set your expectations, say this is why that there's the layout that it has.
Or giving you some hope that maybe if you do a little bit of digging, you can convert it back to a two-family at some other point in time. Yeah, well, we'll never know. 773 Greendale Avenue is a house that was on and off the market very quickly, similar to 96 Central, just 3 days on market. Another one had the chance to see this one, and this was in really, really rough shape. I mean, essentially needed to be gutted.
Definitely needed a porch.
Needed a porch. That was falling over, but you had some nice backyard space. It's, broad meadow. It's you put a little bit of sweat equity into this house, and you could be up into the sixes pretty easily. But I think the price point was justified by the condition of the house. 104 Elder Road is next up on our list of homes that sold in Needham in the month of December per MLS, and this is how about that? It's a ranch.
It is a ranch, but it's also a land sale. This was sold to a builder, so we would expect this to be redeveloped.
That's interesting that Elder is so safe to say that Elder is beginning to turn over now a little bit.
That's the second sale on Elder. I'm not sure that the first one was being redeveloped or not, but this one definitely is.
First new construction on Elder, that's kind of tough because it's not blending in.
Right.
Because every single house on that street are ranches.
Right.
But nevertheless, so one car garage there. And next up is 1370 Great Plain Avenue. This was a house, as soon as it came on the market, I had a chance to see it, and I was pretty sure it was not going to be on the market for very long, so I was mistaken.
Yeah, it lingered a little bit. We actually saw this before it went on. The folks that were living there were inquiring as to whether we'd be interested in it from a redevelopment standpoint, and one thing we did notice was that the basement needed a lot of attention in order to sell it, and they did address it. They put a French drain in. There was a lot of asbestos in the basement. I'm not sure. Maybe you were down there when it was on the market. I'm not sure if they removed that.
I believe they did.
They might have, because it was really everywhere, and it was. So I'm glad to see that they took the advice. They put it on. They got a good number for it. So good for them.
Yeah, good for them indeed. 3 Francis Street is next up, and this seemed, at least on the description, like a house that needed very little. A lot of renovations had gone on at that location, it seemed, over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were cosmetic in nature and just sort of freshening up. This was definitely bought by a homeowner. It's a good sized lot. It is on the corner of High Rock but it's in moving condition. I mean, I think it's the kind of thing that once the homeowner gets in there, they may find that the work's not quite done, but like you said, it's there was work done and it's able to move in.
Right, or they can afford to live in it for a little while before doing any work.
Absolutely.
I noticed this house was on the market in 2009 as a new construction.
Yeah.
It was a pre-construction opportunity.
They were the owner was looking for a redevelopment type deal that just didn't come to fruition.
It never.
So then I think they put a little bit of money in and then sold it to a homeowner.
And seemed to get what they wanted. 625 sold for list.
Yep.
After just 21 days. 80 Robinwood, we're continuing with these kind of redevelopment opportunities, and this was certainly one of them. Robinwood, an interesting street right off of High Rock, and you've got starting to get some houses there that are in that kind of higher end, and you've got bigger lots, and you've got conservation. So there are a lot of kind of appealing components to Robinwood. You had a chance to see this one, correct?
I did. I mean, it's a big lot. It's almost 18,000 square feet. There is the conservation behind it. There does appear to be some wet areas in the rear of this property. There certainly are on the street. So this one you might have some extra work to do if you wanted to do an addition or build a new house. But quiet street, cul-de-sac, nice neighborhood. This is a pretty good deal at 620 or 635. I think
it's a nice neighborhood, but it's just one street.
Right. True.
Okay. 72 Richdale Road is the next listing to come up here. Sold for $660,000. This is one that I saw on the broker tour, and to be perfectly honest with you, never occurred to me that it might be purchased by a builder, as it was. $719 it was listed for, and you walk through this house, and don't get me wrong, it needed a lot. It was, clean, but very, very old. But it was, 3 beds, 2 baths. You figure somebody could have gotten it in the 6s, put a little bit of money into it, and been a really great neighborhood. But in this case, obviously a builder came in and it was too good to pass up with not having to worry about inspections, which would have been thorny, as well as financing and everything else.
Yeah, and it's a split, no? Or a multi-level?
It is a multi-level.
Yeah, which is a little bit less desirable from a homeowner's perspective.
It's a good
and
point.
in a good neighborhood, a good location for a builder.
And how the builder does, we will find out on a future show, because this is on the market now as a new construction. 133 Aletha Road is next up on our list. Sales price $695, and this would be a tricky listing, I would think, to have. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and sometimes we always talk about pricing, and pricing's challenging. And this one had a couple of price reductions and ultimately went considerably below its last price reduction. It was at $734 and it sold for $695. So I think ranches are tough to value. This is a nice Broadmeadow location. There have been a couple of sales. The homes on the street are, older in nature. There hasn't been a lot of renovations going on there. But, again, ranches are tough.
Tough, and I don't think much in the way of a backyard. And my understanding from a fan of the show is that it's essentially on granite.
Okay.
So that doesn't really help. While you'd think it'd be kind of a level lot, it's really not. So that probably worked against it a little bit as well. 1708 Central Avenue is next up on our list, and this was a house that was a little bit further away from town, right towards Medfield.
Yep.
Sale price $730,000, 4 beds, 1.5 bath, and I thought it was very nice. This house.
Yeah, I mean it's a great lot. It's an acre lot.
Good shape.
Yeah.
Move-in condition, if you will, and an additional 660 square feet in the lower level, which is not included in the 1882. So you're up at 2,400 square feet.
Nice. How about that? Only 1.5 baths though.
Right.
Yeah.
4 beds. Would you rather have a 3-bed, 2-bath, or a 4-bed, 1.5 bath?
4-bed, 1.5 bath.
71 Mayflower Road is next up, staying in the Newman School District. This one listed for $724,900, sold for $740,000. And you could do a little case study on this one, Ryan, I would think.
You could.
Because after this was listed for $724,900, 7 offers basically within the first week, 6 over asking, one that was astronomically high. So as a seller, you almost have to roll the dice and go with the highest one.
But what happened?
So much higher. But as is often the case, you get a buyer who gets cold feet and feels like maybe they stretched a little bit too much. The deal falls through. All the other above asking potential buyers have vanished.
Yep. So I mean, we talked about it when this was going on, and this was in fact Rob's listing, and what we thought might be happening is when you get into the competitive situation, and there's an incentive almost as one of the buyers to bid really high, so the seller can't ignore it with no intention of actually paying that ultimately for the purchase price, and having every intention of renegotiating, but just to blow the others out of the water so you can control it, and then take that opportunity to sort of renegotiate it back to where you're comfortable.
Right, and also there's something to be said. You're all of a sudden in this. It feels like a contest, and you want to win, and you're so intent on winning that you're not kind of envisioning how it's going to go down after you do indeed get the house.
Yep.
Anyway, sold for $740, which at the end of the day
it's a great number. It's a good deal.
Probably what it was worth. Yep.
Yeah.
84 Morningside Road is similar, I would say, in many ways to Mayflower, with the exception of the fact that it's 2 baths instead of 1.5. Obviously, different location as well, but condition
An amazing
similar.
location here.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Except for that big green water tower, which is always the trick on Morningside.
Which means your water pressure is going to be
very, very weak.
Yeah, it's really a paradox.
Well, one thing I liked about this house is that the seller has already taken care of a lot of what we deem to be the less glamorous renovations, like the roof, the heating system, upgraded the electrical to 200 amps, water heaters new, like those kinds of things. The windows are new, like that you hate spending money on, but they're so important in terms of lowering your costs, your energy costs, and prolonging or putting off future maintenance. It's good to have those things done, and they've done it here, which we like to see.
175 Richardson Drive was actually a potential candidate for me for Deal of the Month. I had a tough time with Deal of the Month this month. 2,900 square feet, 4 beds, 2.5 baths, big lot. Next up, 100 High Street. And, I saw the sale price, $840,000, and thought, wow, it seems like a lot. But then when you think about a move-in condition house, 4 beds, 2+, it was 2 and 2.5 baths in this instance. And move-in condition, there's just not many of those for under $1 million.
No, and the good thing about this is even though the address on High Street, which we know is a busy street, the driveway is actually on Spring Street behind it. So, you're coming and going off of a quieter street.
That helps.
You have a busier address.
Can't you claim a Spring address at that point?
I'm not sure. The front of the house is clearly on High Street. But, stranger things have happened.
I wonder if you listed a Spring Street address, if you could have squeezed a few more dollars out of it.
Maybe.
Probably not, but maybe. 131 Locust Lane. A lot of space to stretch out here.
Yeah.
My question is, if you could buy this lot and there was no house on it at all, what does it sell for?
I think probably not much less than what they paid for. This is a raised ranch. It's listed as, I think, I forget how they listed it, but it wasn't raised ranch. But that's what this is. And that means, your living space is on one main level. It's basically a ranch with a finished basement, but the finished basement is elevated, so you're walking upstairs to get to your main living level. And that, I think, we talked about ranches being tough to sell. Like the raised ranch is the hardest style to sell. And I think that probably hurt its value here. It was on the market for over 100 days. It's a great lot. It's
some great
cool
pictures.
Location and nice pictures.
Nice pictures.
But I think your point's a good one. Like, what's this? How much did the house add value?
Yeah, I don't know. it's a great lot.
But a really nice location.
But it's not in town.
No, it's not. But the person looking for this house is
doesn't want to be in town.
Right, exactly.
346. Speaking of in town.
Yeah, here we go.
Why don't we take a little stroll to 346
Here
Brookline Street to? Here we go.
The deal of the month.
My deal of the month for the buyer. It surprised you, Ryan?
A little bit.
All right. Well, let me explain it then.
Okay.
Sale price of $1 million. My attitude is this: when you talk about, we've talked before about new construction for $1 million and under, and what does that get you in this town? And I would venture to guess that this is the first, at least since we've been doing the show, the first time you can get a new construction home in Mitchell in an in-town location that, well, when it came on the market was for under $1 million, right? Ended up selling for $1 million. I realize it's a smaller lot. It's not a particularly big house. It's a lot of garage in the front of it. The layout of the lot's a little tricky. But at the end of the day, I think you could put this house on the market today for $1,050,000, and I think it sells. And so I don't know if it was a victim of being underpriced, or maybe it wasn't even underpriced at all. But I think $1 million for a new construction house in Mitchell, that just barely gave it enough of a nudge to make it my deal of the month.
Okay. I'll buy it. Your explanation, that is.
Okay. Thank you. Not sure that I do. 202 Valley Road is next up. That's not an in-town location.
No,
that one is close to
128.
128, not Newton. Sold for 1005 after quite a lengthy stay on the market.
Almost 200 days.
Built in 2003. That is a
relatively young house.
Relatively young.
Maturing. Yeah.
It's going on 12. It's a preteen.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Probably a handful.
Can you imagine? 171 Jarvis Circle is not a newer house. That's a new house, right?
It sure is.
And that's sold for 11725.
Yeah, it's on the smaller side.
I noticed that too.
It's under 4,000 square feet, which is, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, we talk about it all the time how we really would love to see people building smaller, and we advocate that all the time with our customers. And the builder paid about $470 for this in January, so pretty quick turnaround. I would say everybody's probably pretty happy with this.
Yeah, and keep in mind that 3,700 square feet includes the lower level.
Right. No,
and the finished bath.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first and second floor square footage is, probably 3,000 square feet.
I mean, this is, we just talked about a smaller house on Brookline. This is a smaller house, and these work. I mean, you can design a great floor plan around this size. I'm a big proponent of this.
Quite a lot of variety on that street too when you think about the older homes, the newer homes, and the multis and the condos.
Yeah.
Right, they're all kind of back there.
Yeah.
16 Yale Road was indeed on a level lot, although you wouldn't be too sure looking at the picture, but that was not
that's
on
fun.
the side of a hill.
Yeah. The thing I love about this is kind of like Elder. I mean, this is kind of like the pioneer of new construction on Yale, if I'm not mistaken. There's been some renovations, but I don't know that there's been a full-fledged new house. I may be wrong. And similar to what we're going to see on Elder, but good.
674 Webster Street. Did you see the assessed value on 674 Webster Street that sold for $1.3 million?
I sure didn't.
The assessed value, you want to take a guess?
It's under $1 million, isn't it?
830.
Yeah.
830,600. I mean, the assessing department has to be
they're up in arms right now.
Banging their head into
There's alarm bells going
Somebody's
on.
getting fired over this. Something tells me that number's going up.
Yep.
Say what you want about the house, and it was nice and charming, had a lot going for it, but that is a very, very beautiful piece of property.
Yeah, the barn that's on there is really nice.
It's great. It's
the
huge.
kitchen's beautiful.
Yeah.
The house. It's an older home, so you're not going to get that open floor plan. But it was cool.
It's it's a lot of space for an in-town location.
Yep.
5 McIntosh Avenue, a little bit less space.
A little bit less
for a not in-town location.
Not much
this
outdoor
was
space
on
here.
a corner, so not much in the way of a yard. Geothermal.
Rare for a spec house.
And a private irrigation. A private well for irrigation, so you're not using town water.
Yeah, how about that?
That's interesting.
Yeah, good for them.
98 Wayne Road is next up on our little walk through all the homes to sell in Needham in December per MLS. This one sold for $1,332.
Yep.
Just kind of nestled in between two larger homes. We've talked a lot. We've had a lot of Wayne discussions over the course of 2013. Wouldn't you say?
There's a decent amount of development going on over there.
Agreed. Pine Grove too.
Pine Grove, yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
You like Cricket Field? You spend any time over there?
Sure.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah.
Open, a lot of space. Yeah. 476 Chestnut Street is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from this studio.
Right, very close. Big lot.
Big lot, yep, and a unique-looking house.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple things that sort of jumped off the page, or jumped out of the house for me. With one, the master bedrooms in the front of the house, which I wouldn't expect to see on a busy road.
Yep.
I probably wouldn't design that way. And the other one was remember that little nook off the family room that had the fireplace?
I do.
It just didn't. I just wondered how you lay that out from a furniture perspective.
Yeah, it was interesting for sure. Yeah, maybe you put a table in there, play cards. It was a unique layout.
Yeah, I'd love to get back in there and see how they laid it out.
Well,
if you're listening, send pictures because we're both very curious.
Or give us a call. We'll give that at the end of the show. 26 Robinwood Avenue. Now this is interesting because we had the Robinwood at the beginning of the show, which was a land sale.
Right.
And you would like to think that the person who bought that piece of land, I'm sure, as part of their due diligence to derive the value.
Do we know that was a land sale?
I assumed it was, but I don't know for sure.
I mean, the house was move-intoable.
Okay, so scratch what I just said if it wasn't.
But it might be. In fairness, it's very possible that it is.
Well, if it was.
Let's pretend for the sake of argument.
But you could probably, it would work as a land sale at the number that it was purchased at, wouldn't you say, based on the 1,465 sales price?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But we talked about it. This is a nice street and another one that's kind of turning over a little bit now, whereas a few years ago there was no new construction there. 272 Charles River Street. We're starting to ramp up the pricing here a little bit, Ryan.
Yes.
We're getting up there.
Wow, look at that.
Look at that. I see some red.
Yeah, I do. And it's in my deal of the month, and it's for the buyer. And because I really like this house. It's under 5,000 square feet. This is a really nicely renovated cape on a big acre lot. It's beautiful. The first floor master bath, or master suite, but it's a really nice one. It has its own patio, a 3-car garage. There's radiant heat in various places. I mean, this shows you what you can do with an existing home and expand it and renovate it and really, bring it to life. A lot of windows, a lot of light. For 1.6, we're seeing some, new houses that are built, getting more than that. And this is just, I really was blown away by it.
And Charles River Street is a street that there were just 2 houses that went on the market on Charles River in the month of December. Right, it's such a long street. You know, it's interesting. You wonder if somebody wants to live on Charles River, would they rather live on one side of the street or the other? Or does it matter? I don't know. It's so long. You ever think about that?
I will now.
Okay. You want to do it now?
No.
Okay. But it's how many? We don't have many listings where the number of baths exceeds the number of bedrooms.
Yeah. How about that?
But as we get into the higher price point, that might tend to happen. It did not happen in 121 Highgate Street. That was 5 beds, 4.5 baths, and that looks familiar, doesn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, no, that's one of ours. It's a custom home. The sale price, with respect to the list price, is somewhat misleading given that it was a custom home from the get-go. So the original list price was sort of kind of irrelevant.
So just to be clear, so once you get the custom buyer in there, it's almost like you just throw out the purchase price because they're going to make it a certain way.
Right.
That may or may not reflect what you envisioned at the beginning of the project.
That's right. I mean, this particular deal came together, while the house was in concept mode. So the house that maybe we were going to design and build at that price point was not even considered when we ultimately designed and built this one for the customer. So it's a little bit misleading. But still, I mean, really, it was a beautiful home. I mean, there'll be obviously pictures of it that are going to come out on our site, but it was very, 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 very meticulously designed and executed. So we're happy with it. Customer's happy, and everybody wins.
Right. Real quick, give me 2, not 1, but 2 things that makes the price go up that you did in this house.
Geothermal heating system.
That's a big one?
That's a big one. And there's the finishes, the appliance packages, the woodwork, the trim. It's everything was really top dollar.
There were 5 homes to sell for over $2 million in 2013. 2 of them sold in the month of December. The first is 54 Pheasant Landing Road, a house that sold for $2.325 million.
This house, both of these that we're going to talk about actually blew me away. I thought they were really, really, really cool houses. The best part about this Pheasant Landing is when you walked up, they had a welcome mat that said "Go away," which I thought was funny.
Oh, that's clever.
But this one, a really cool paneled den. Woodwork was impressive throughout. Tons of light, big windows, screened-in porches, which I think are one of the more underrated elements of homes. Lots of fireplaces, multiple staircases. This house really had it all, except for the basement, which was just average, in my opinion.
Okay. And that one sold for $2.3. Getting up there now. $471 Grove Street. That's big money right there for Needham.
Yep.
$2.825. I'm not sure if it was the highest selling house for 2013, but we know it was in the top 4 at the very least.
This one was very impressive as well. Has views of Sabrina Lake, and they took advantage of them, which I like to see. Like there were terraces and balconies that were specifically designed in order to give you the vista of the lake and the exterior, which I think a lot of times that gets missed when you have something, take advantage of it, and they really did here. Really impressive master suite with the bath and the shower was very, very nice. A game room, walkout basement, really well done. Stucco with a cedar roof. This house had someone paid a lot of attention when they updated and designed this house, and I think it shows, and it commanded a pretty high price, but it was worth it.
All right, let's take a quick peek at the market snapshot as we're starting to wrap things up with the show. Anything on here jump up at you real quickly, Ryan, before we give out the information on how people can get a hold of
the
us?
average listing price, and we've heard us talk about the outlier for months and months and months. The Lot X on Charles River for $9-10 million is not on the market anymore, so that affects the average list price now at 1.5, down from 1.7 almost. That's a big deal.
All right, just 26 single-family homes under agreement, which could translate to a very slow February show for us. If people want to get a hold of us, Ryan, how would they do that?
They can call us anytime at 781-707-6564, or they can email us at rob.ryan@hawthornre.com.
All right, that does it for this installment of What's My House Worth. This is Ryan. I am Rob. Thank you, everybody. We will see you again pretty soon.
Happy New Year and bundle up.
That's right.